apartheid in South Africa, South Africans sought to reform their society. They used a democracy, they used a constitution to try to bring about equality. However, when they recognized that after years, segregation still exists and was entrenched, that inequality ran rampant, it became apparent that empty promises for political enfranchisement were not sufficient. No, socio-economic rights needed to be guaranteed as well. With that in mind, this House believes that states should enshrine legally actionable socio-economic rights. We would say that this would be accomplished by reforming the Constitution of States to include several new components, which are as follows. Firstly, we would say that housing would be included, providing opportunities such as subsidized and low-income housing. Second of all, education of at least the primary level. Third of all, health, including food and water of adequate quality and quantity and basic standard of health for all citizens. And fourth, social security, such as welfare benefits for those of old age or unemployment.
Madam.
We would say that this would be similar to the South African Constitution in that governments would only be required to take reasonable action, such as legislative or other measures, within available resources towards the progressive realization of these rights. To give you an idea of what this looks like, let's look at the case in South Africa with the Mankele versus Durban Transitional Metro Council. Though water is provided for those who can't afford it and don't have enough, individuals in this case wanted more than 6 kiloliters per month and were actually denied that right. We would say that it is something that's managed in terms of what is reasonable and what can be done. We would also add that there are various actions available to make this economically viable, such as putting profit controls on companies and progressive taxation. We believe on our side of the House that we have two burdens for you today. First of all, that socioeconomic rights are necessary to achieve equally accessible human welfare, and second of all, that their provision can only be guaranteed through constitutional enshrinement. We would show you this under the case line that when human dignity is undermined, socioeconomic rights must be enshrined. We think that side opposition, to try to deal with this, will have to take one of two stances. Either they will have to provide an equally or more effective way of delivering these rights, or they're going to have to justify not delivering them to the necessary extent. With that said, I'd like to get into our case. I will be talking to you about the framework for rights and the actual achievement of these rights while my partner talks to you about transformative politics. Firstly, I'd like to talk to you about the goal of government. We would say that governments are in place to better the human condition, that they actually regulate our society, limiting majority control, redistributing benefits, or even inputting the rule of law, all to better the human condition. And that promise of human dignity, can only be achieved through collective action and regulation, not just individual action. This is why we buy into the state. This is why we agree to the social contract. I'm sorry, I couldn't really hear that. It wasn't loud enough. All right, we would say that the state has to promote these for everyone, that is at the forefront of all of our priorities as a state. And we'd say that they need to guarantee a sufficient basic condition that allows us to live meaningful lives free of suffering, that we are entitled to a condition that allows us to pursue our interests, be it meritocracy or any other system. And thus a government is only legitimate when they make that basic human condition accessible for all. Would you dare to disagree with me?
Madam, socio-economic rights are often undemocratic because they are expanded in courts and give people a basic standard of living which is more than the democratic will wanted them to have.
Okay, so we reject that individuals should be able to vote away your basic rights. No one can vote away your right to practice your religion, even if it is not popular. We would say that basic food and water to keep you alive, Mr. Speaker, operate under that same principle. I'm a bit disgusted that they would dare to say that democracy should trump some of our most basic rights. Now, the idea of the goal of the Constitution. We would say that constitutions have a crucial role as they are the blueprint for government process, the rules by which they must play. And constitutional courts allow us to regulate spending or policy and ensure that the minimum requirements are met. But currently that goal cannot be fully met. This is because constitutions are mainly political. They have an important but limited purpose in that they tell us what we should be able to do, provided that we have the means to do so. If you consider the vote, it is important that we are given permission to vote. But if we don't have the education that we need to understand how to best deliver our needs, if we don't have the political capital that we need to lobby for our concerns, we do not truly get the effective value of the vote delivered to us. We say that this is because historically the middle class, which is already socially and economically enfranchised, was actually just opting for permission, that the state did not need to give them these prerequisites. However, there are individuals in our society below that middle class, and they need those prerequisites. This is where socioeconomic rights come in. We'd say that they tell us exactly what we need to be physically capable or given the resources to do. We'd say that currently, many individuals are in a harmful cycle, where they are both socially and economically disenfranchised, but also politically disenfranchised as a result. Socioeconomic rights act as access rights. Firstly, they make you physically capable of using your rights. That if you don't have food in your stomach or a roof over your head, you can't lobby for any of your interests. You can't even act in society, let alone a meritocracy. But second of all, they make your rights meaningful. If a boy is going to school on an empty stomach, Mr. Speaker, he simply cannot focus, he cannot learn, and cannot get the true potential of that resources actualized. We would like to ask side opposition why it is society will open doors for individuals when they will not show them where it is, they will not help them get through that door. We would say that because of this real need, we necessarily need socioeconomic rights. My second point is about how we make them a reality in their society. I'm open to a PI right now. Go.
Madam, general socio-economic policies are far more flexible tool to achieve these things without enshrining rights that make sure every single individual.
If you think flexible means that you can ignore them, such as states in the United States, when even in situations where they're very wealthy, they're doing very well, they still ignore the poor and the homeless. We don't think that flexibility is okay because we think that these rights are non-negotiable. Again, disgusted by the kind of opinions we're bringing into this debate. Now, the idea of actualizing these rights, we'd say that it particularly applies to minorities and those who are disenfranchised. We'd say that democracy is good at gauging general concerns, but if your idea, regardless of how legitimate, is not popular, it does not meet the standards of this numbers game, of this winner-takes-all politics, they will not be addressed. We'd say that this is problematic because, first of all, reaching the needs of those who are underprivileged means that they need a party that they can access, one that vouches for their concerns and one that will win. Have you ever seen a party in the United States win enough votes to have any power that has vouched for the rights of Hispanic and Mexicans? No, because it doesn't happen. Second of all, temporally sensitive claims are not dealt with. You should not have to wait 4 years until the next election to get food in your stomach. It simply doesn't deal with the needs that individuals face every day and cannot wait till some discussion or some politician comes in. We would say enshrining these rights gives you two very important mechanisms to deal with this. First of all, you are automatically represented. You don't need a party or the political atmosphere to somehow sway in your favor. And you don't need political capital or all the things that you get when you're already socially and economically enfranchised. We say that just like your freedom of religion or the right to vote, no one else will be able to take it away from you just because the majority doesn't think that it's convenient to give it to you, that some politician doesn't think they'll get votes for giving it to you. We'd say that the practical implications are clear. If you look at the Ministry of Public Workers versus Kiamani Ridge environmental group in South Africa, it was actually justified that they were willing to lower the property values of many wealthy individuals to set up the housing needed for flood victims who are without homes. We are okay with reducing the property values of the land on which the rich have their mansions so that some people have a roof over their head, Mr. Speaker. That's the kind of implication we have. And second of all, we'd say that it also makes these rights more accessible. You have the immediate recourse of a court on your side. We'd say that positive social citizenship will occur without barriers because neglect from the government cannot go unchallenged. Laws that may be overturned or may not exist won't matter when you have constitutional protection on your side. What we are proud to say on our side of the House today is that we are vouching for a part of society that has not been able to get sufficient recourse through the mechanisms available. We would provide one that we are sure will succeed. When human dignity is undermined, socioeconomic rights simply must be enshrined. Thank you very much.